Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm doing a TG deck profile. So I'm really excited for this one because I have a fan that has been requesting this deck like crazy named Chibi Gohan, and I really quickly wanted to give him a shout out. He's one of the really good fans on the channel, and he's been requesting TGs for a long time, and I really quickly wanted to do this deck profile, especially with Needle Fiber being released in the TCG, and I'm really excited to do this deck profile for him. So without further ado guys, let's get straight into this. Before we do, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and let's get straight on into this. So, first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of TG Screw Serpent. And I will mention to you guys too, don't forget to check out the Patreon and the Ko-Fi down in the description, guys. It is really helpful if you guys do donate to the channel, so the channel can just get bigger and better. So, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Screw Serpent. Is one of the best cards in the deck to see first turn, because if it's normal or special summoned, you can target one level 4 or lower TG monster in your graveyard, except another copy of Screw Serpent, and special summon that monster, but its effects are negated, which is not that big of a deal, because usually you're going to be using it for materials for like Trident Launcher, or a copy of your Crystron Link monster, or a Synchro Summon, or something like that, to be able to get all of your monsters out on the field as quickly as possible. But it also has the ability that you can target a TG monster you control, increase its level by 1 until the end phase if you banish this card from your graveyard, which is a really good effect to be able to banish from graveyard. Then we play 3 copies of TG Warwolf. TG Warwolf is a really cool card too, that when a level 4 or lower monster is special summoned, you can special summon this card from your hand, and then during the end phase, if this card was sent to the graveyard because it was destroyed on the field this turn, you can add a TG monster from your deck to your hand. So this card's really good to just put on field, even if you don't use it as a material or anything, you can just put it on field and be able to use it as a beat stick for 1200, and if it gets destroyed, it's not that big of a deal. Then we play 3 copies of Booster Raptor. Booster Raptor is really good too, because if you control a TG monster, you can special summon it from your hand, and you can only use its effect once per turn. And then once per turn during the end phase, if this card's in the graveyard because it was destroyed on the field and sent to the graveyard, you can add a TG from your deck to your hand as well. It's kind of like the way that Warwolf is, but it's also a dinosaur monster, which helps us play in with our Miscellaneousaurus that we play later. We only play 2 copies of TG Striker. TG Striker is good, but you just only need the 2 copies of it, and to be honest with you, if your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, you can special summon it from your hand, and then during the end phase, this card was destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you get to add a TG monster from your deck to your hand. We play 2 copies of Gear Zombie. Gear Zombie is really good, in my opinion, and it's a little bit underrated. Some people play it at 1, but I feel like 2 is a better number, because you can target a TG monster you control and special summon this card from your hand, and then the targeted monster loses 1,000 attack. That usually doesn't even matter, because if you're special summoning Gear Zombie, you're going to synchro summon with something. Like if you normal summon the Screw Serpent, and then the Screw Serpent's effect activates and lets you target a TG monster that's in your graveyard and special summon it, then you can target the Screw Serpent with the copy of Gear Zombie, special summon this. It's a tuner monster, and then you can like link summon into the Trident Launcher because you have all 3 monsters on the field, and then you can start synchro summoning because Trident Launcher is going to special summon you out a bunch of monsters. We play 2 copies of Drillfish. TG Drillfish is really cool because this card can attack directly, and for each of the following effects, you can only activate once per turn. If this card, and it's going to do so much damage at 100 attack points, but hey, it can make the difference in time. But if all monsters you control are TG monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand, and then when a TG monster you control inflicts damage to your opponent while you control, while it inflicts damage to your monster, you can target one monster your opponent controls and destroy it. That's the cool effect about this card, that just lets you pop something on the field if a TG monster inflicts damage, which is really good. We play 2 copies of Grub Tank. I really like Grub Tank at 2. Some people play just 1 because it is searchable and it's really easy to get out of the deck, but I don't mind seeing it in my first turn. If this card you control is used for a synchro summon of a TG monster, you can treat it as a non-tuner. Now it looks like you have a lot of tuners in the deck, but this one really helps out because it counts as a tuner and it doesn't count as a tuner at the same time. So that's why I played as 2. And if it's sent to the graveyard for a synchro summon of a TG monster, you can target 1 TG token, or you can special summon a TG token that's a level 1 Earth 0/0 in attack position. Now that really helps out for link summons, it helps out with synchro summons and all sorts of stuff in this deck. I played just a single copy of Cyber Magician. Now, excuse the Cyber Magician is the only one that I had. It's a little beat up, but hey, whatever. It still works. But when this card you control, when using this card you control as a synchro summon for a TG synchro monster, You can use TG monsters from your hand as non-tuner synchro monsters as well. And then during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was destroyed on the field, you can also add the TG monster from your deck to your hand, which is really cool. But I really love this one because you can use monsters in your hand as well as ones on your field, and you just normal summon it, and it can get you a really big TG monster out for basically for free. Then we play, for the other tuners, we're playing just a single copy of Jet Synchron. This card's super underrated, and I really love playing Jet Synchron in this deck because you just have the Jet Synchron on the field, and if it's sent to your graveyard as a synchro material, you can add a junk from your deck to your hand. That you never really do that. The effect that you really want to use off this is if it's in your graveyard, you can send a card from your hand to the grave, and then special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. We play a single copy of Glow Up Bloom or Glow Up Bulb. Glow Up Bulb really helps out because if it's in your graveyard, you can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard, and if you special summon it, but you can only use its effect once per duel. One copy of Miscellaneousaurus. Miscellaneousaurus, you discard it to the graveyard and then banish it to special summon out your booster, your boost Raptor. This card's really, really helpful to be able to use that for. And then we play 3 copies of Red Resignator. So Red Resignator is kind of like a tech card in here that I play that just helps you get your copy of the Crystron Link monster out on the field really fast because you just normal summon this and then special summon another monster, Crystron Needle Fiber, or Crystron Helifraxa. I don't even know how to say it, but I'm just going to call it Needle Fiber. But Needle Fiber, special summon something from deck, and then you can go from there. But this card really helps out get the Needle Fiber out on the field. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing just a single copy of Reinforcements of the Army. Reinforcements of the Army really helps out because it can search your copy of Striker to your hand, which is really, really helpful to be able to just get that Striker directly to your hand. Monster Reborn, because it's basically an extender. This card really helps out for that. One copy of Reasoning. It's a really good card because you play so many different levels all the way from 1 to, you play 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s, and so it's kind of odd when you special summon something from your deck because your opponent's usually going to call 4 and you only play 3 Screw Serpents as your level 4s. The majority of the stuff that you're playing is level 1s or 2s, and so it's really awkward if your opponent doesn't know what you're playing with for them to call 4 because that's the standard, and then you just special summon out something from your deck for free. Foolish Burial helps out as well because this card can help you get certain cards to your graveyard just so you can get more plays off in the deck. We play a single copy of 1-for-1. 1-for-1 is super clutch in this deck because all the monsters basically in your deck are level 1, and so you're going to be special summoning just anything that you need. We play 2 copies of Resonator Call because Resonator Call just really helps out to add a red Resonator from our deck to our hand. We play, now this is my personal tech, and I really like this in this deck, and it's a pretty cheap personal tech, but that's 3 copies of World Legacy Succession. Now, why do I play World Legacy Succession at 3? Okay, you're usually going to end on a board that has a Trident launcher on the field, or you're going to end with a Crystron Needle Fiber on the field and have them both on the field or something. And if you don't special summon to zones that they point to, you can just basically get this as 4 copies of Monster Reborn because you play this and then you play these 3. And it comes in really handy. Like this card, like you might look at it and be like, that's going to brick a little bit. But it's not. It's really not going to brick because you summon Trident Launcher every time on your first turn and you just leave it on the board and then you activate World Legacy Succession and bring back what you need to go into more synchro plays like Hyper Librarian, your level 2 synchro monsters, stuff like that to be able to go into more plays. Then we play 3 copies of Fossil Dig. Fossil Dig helps us, again, search our booster, the Boost Raptor. Basically, when you look at this, it's a lot of searching, and it's a lot of, Reborn. Like, it's a lot of extenders and a lot of, searching. Because you want to end, basically, with 5 monsters in hand to be able to synchro summon or link summon. Then we play 3 copies of Called by the Grave because you don't want to deal to your opponent's hand traps in this deck because you're wanting to special summon out your monsters as quickly as possible so you don't have to handle any of that. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing just a single copy of TG Trident Launcher. This card is absolutely insane, but you're only ever going to summon it probably once in the entire game, because once you summon it one time, you're pretty much set. This deck, I will mention you guys, can go for Cosmic Blazar Dragon extremely easily, but this card's effect is that you have to link 2 plus effect monsters, including a TG, but you have to put 3 into it. And if this card is link summoned, you can special summon 3 TG monsters, 1 from your hand, 1 from your deck, and 1 from your graveyard in defense position to zones this card points to. And also, it cannot be special summoned. You cannot special summon monsters the rest turn except for TG monsters. You can only use the effect of TG Trident Launcher once per turn, and your opponent cannot target TG synchro monsters this card points to with card effects. But what you're really looking for is being able to special summon monsters to this zones, which is really important. Now, when you're playing this deck, you have to play really tactically, where you don't put anything in the zones when you summon this, because if you do, it says you have to summon 1 from your hand, deck, and grave. If you have something in one of the zones, its effect fizzles and it doesn't activate. So it's something that you really have to keep in mind about Trident Launcher. That's the only downside of this card. But basically, it's like making it for 2 because it special summons 1 of the 3 materials that you put back into it from your graveyard onto your side of the field. So it's basically like a Link 2, essentially. We played just a single copy of the Crystron Link monster. This card's really good. I think it's going to get limited on the next list, so I really wouldn't worry about playing it any more than 1 at all. And you really only resolve it 1 time anyways. If this card is link summoned, you can special summon a level 3 or lower tuner monster from your hand or deck in defense position, but it can't activate its effects this turn. And then during your opponent's main phase or battle phase, you can quick effect banish this card. You control special summon a tuner synchro monster from your extra deck, and it's treated as a synchro summon, which is really cool to be able to do to just get out Wonder Magician or your copy of Formula Synchron, so you can immediately go for another Synchro play, or your Star Guardian, or it just depends on what you need in the particular situation. So I definitely recommend playing this card as a 1-of. It is absolutely necessary to play this card as a 1-of. I play a single copy of Cosmic Blazar Dragon. Blazar Dragon is really good in this deck, and it's extremely easy to get out in this deck. Basically, it must be synchro summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways. You can banish this card until the end phase of the turn to activate one of these effects, and they are all quick effects. When the opponent's monster activates a card or effect, negate the activation if you destroy it. When your opponent's monster would summon a monster, negate the activation if you destroy it. And then when an opponent's monster declares an attack, negate the activation and then end the battle phase. This card is absolutely crazy, and you definitely want to put this card as a 1-of in the extra deck. I play a single copy of TG Halberd Cannon. Halberd Cannon is extremely easy to summon in this deck too. It's not hard. If you can summon Blazar, you can summon Halberd Cannon as well. Halberd Cannon is not something I usually go for unless I'm under Trident Launcher, and then I'll go for this card instead. Or if I can end with like a Formula Synchron during my opponent's turn, I'll actually leave like my 2 librarians on the field, and I'll synchro summon at the end or during the opponent's main phase with the copy of Formula Synchron and my 2 librarians, and then I'll go into Blazar Dragon on my opponent's turn. But if I really quickly needed something, I'll go for Halberd Cannon. Halberd Cannon's really cool because it cannot be special summoned except for synchro summon. And then once per turn, when this card is faced on the field, you can negate the summon of an opponent's monster and destroy it. And when this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can select a TG monster in your graveyard and special summon it. TG Blade Blaster is a card that I go for every single duel in this deck. This card is really good. Then when an opponent activates a spell or trap, you can target this card. That targets this card, you can send a card from your hand to the graveyard and negate the activation. And then once per turn, once per opponent's turn, you can remove and play a TG monster from your graveyard to remove this face-up card on your field from play. And then during the next standby phase, special summon this card that was removed. This card's really good because if you remove it, like if your opponent Dark Holes, Raigekis, Lightning Storms, anything, you just banish a TG, banish this card, and then it comes right back next turn, which is really good. Trishula is ridiculously easy to go in for this deck. I go into this card all the time in this deck. Crystal Wing is another one that you can go into pretty easily in this deck. And then you play 2 copies of Librarian. I think Librarian's going to go to 1 on the next list, but if it does, I'll definitely have something in the comments for you guys to change it out for. We play a single copy of Wonder Magician. Wonder Magician is a really neat card with the Crystron Link monster because if this card is synchro summoned, you could target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it. And if this card on the field is destroyed, you get to draw a card, and then once per chain during your opponent's main phase, you can quick effect immediately after this card resolves, synchro summon a card. And this card is a tuner as well, so if you end with like a Dragonfly, you win with Dragonfly, Hyper Librarian, and a Crystron on the field, which is easy. During your opponent's turn, you banish this, summon this, pop a spell or trap, and then immediately synchro summon into your Blazar Dragon, which is pretty cool. 2 copies of Star Guardian. The Star Guardians are really good in here too, because once per chain during your opponent's main phase, you can synchro summon as well. And if this card is special summon, you can target a TG monster in your grave, add it to your hand. And then during your main phase, you can special summon a TG monster from your hand. This card's really good as an extender. I played it too for that reason. We played 2 copies of the TG Dragonfly. This card's really good too because you can target a face-up TG Synchro monster you control and then send it to the graveyard, and then you put the materials back on the field if they're in the graveyard. Really helps out with like Hyper Librarian, because Hyper Librarian, you get to draw a card every time you Synchro Summon, so you basically put it back and then Synchro Summon again, which is pretty cool. And then I play a single copy of Formula Synchron as well, because you can draw cards, and it always like Formula Synchron and Hyper Librarian is like a +2 easily, because you just draw 2 cards off of both of them. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I did justice for Chibi Gohan. Like, he's been requesting this for a long time, like 2-3 months. And I finally got around to doing it because I was trying to wait on this card to come out, and it came out, and so I did the deck profile for him. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Definitely like, comment, subscribe. Check out the Ko-Fi and the Patreon down in the description for you guys to donate to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.